the webinar week on online education during and after COVID-19. As you have been taking part on Tuesday afternoon, you will remember that we first started with some sketching the context of online education in relation to COVID crisis, followed by concrete steps in the Digital Pro project that we are going to start with an ED2 on models for hybrid education, blended online education in relation to COVID. Yesterday, we had a very different session, which was more on the future vision of the educational development and digitalization. And today we have two more speakers, of which is Hakan from Anadolu University, who will talk on integrating Moocs into formal courses and programs, followed by Henry Anala from Tampere University of Applied Sciences, who is going to talk about how to design an online course, staff training, and designing online learning. The session will be recorded to be placed on YouTube afterwards. And in the meantime, you can ask questions in the chat. We have some time after the first presentation, and then we can also take all questions at the end of this session. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Hakan on the first presentation of today.
Thank you, George, and thank you, everybody. Thank you for letting me share my experiences and also the project that we are doing. Today, I will be talking about integrating Moocs into formal programs and courses, but I will emphasize the effects of the coronavirus pandemic also. I assume you are able to see my presentation now.
Yes.
So all these information is from my first personal experiences, but at the same time, the things that we are doing, the research we are doing. Who am I? I don't know if you are familiar with Anadolu University. It is a dual mode university, sort of an open university of Turkey, and we have large number of distance students, more than 1 million active students in our distance programs. I do a lot of stuff. Mainly, I have studied open and distance learning all my life, starting '85. I've been trying to learn this field, still trying to learn. It's a very dynamic field. I'm not going to talk about a lot about myself. I would like to start with the definition of Moocs. I use this definition, which was also proposed by EADTU in 2005. I think still it is a good framework, describes what Moocs are and how we can define them. But especially at the beginning, Moocs were mainly supporting the informal and non-formal learning opportunities. However, by the time it changed. Of course, there are some parts here in this definition change a bit. For example, at the last part, you see online for free. We are not sure they all are free now. There are now new business models and people make really good money out of the Moocs. But still, again, this is a good definition to be used. Before explaining or trying to explain what happened in terms of Mooc or how we can integrate Moocs into formal courses, I like to express this quote from Martin Bean. I had a chance to meet with him when he was a vice chancellor of Open University of UK, and we were talking about Moocs. It was 2013 or 2012. I can't remember exactly, but he mentioned that MOOCs are not really new. They are just a proof of acceptance about what we have doing, what as open universities we have been doing for decades. And then I did I prepared this chart, sort of a, the table compare the MOOCs and what we are doing in Anadolu, and we found out a lot of similarities. So MOOCs are not new, but they started beginning of 2010 and sort of take an important role in our lives. And I took this hype curve, MOOCs hype curve from Jonathan. Most probably you have seen it. It was on a blog, Harvard website. You see that there was a big hype in 2013 and an expectation that we will reach 2023 at the same hype and will continue. But actually what happened, I changed this curve. You see, I'm a very bad drawer. I try to draw by myself. What happened in 2010, the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic, sort of created a big hype for the MOOCs. Starting last year, many institutions, many students, many instructors started to show more interest in MOOCs. This one is from Google Explore regarding in Turkey, the numbers. You see, this part is before the pandemic. In Turkey, I must say Udemy is the most popular MOOC platform. That's why I took Udemy, Coursera, and edX. As you see, Udemy is way more popular than others in Turkey. But this part you see, oops, sorry, what happened? Yeah, this part is before the pandemic. There were an interest, but not as much. But suddenly with this peak time is the March 2020. In Turkey, people started to show more interest in MOOCs. And many institutions, many especially foundation universities, what we call not private universities, foundation universities, had some agreements with Coursera or Udemy to provide their courses. They sort of had agreements to open up their courses to all of their students with a reasonable price. So it increased the use of MOOCs or integration of MOOCs into the formal courses and programs. They started to give credit to the MOOCs just because mainly they were not ready in each field, in each course to offer online or transfer their courses to online. And MOOCs were really a good alternative for them. But what happened by using those MOOCs or showing interest among students and among teachers, instructors, created an awareness about how to teach online. So MOOCs were at the same time, especially during this peak time in March and April, instructors learned a lot about MOOCs, about how to teach online. In fact, there are some research showing that integrating MOOCs from the past, actually, integrating MOOCs into formal courses provide some important benefits for teachers and also for learners, for everyone, for administrators too, especially during the pandemic. Administrators of higher education institutions realized that providing or unbundling their services, getting some courses from the MOOC platforms provided some cost beneficial factors for them. So like here there are some, I try to list some of the research done before about integrating MOOCs. In the first two part showing the benefits, like providing students an extra, or different style of teaching. So students are having chance to see alternative teaching approaches, or they're able to meet and see different perspectives on the same topic they are studying. Also, many learners realized how an online course should be. That improved their online learning experiences, and at the same time they created an awareness about how online courses should be, and they demanded that kind of activities in their regular formal courses. Also, through MOOCs, this research showed that people have opportunity to meet with other learners from all around the world and interact with them. That was a big, in many research studies, including Baralik and Diviak, all these research show that students or the learners really enjoyed a lot discussing on those topics they are learning. And also for some, studying by their own pace was a big alternative, big opportunity for them, especially those learners who are not able to spend certain times of the day for study. It was a big opportunity for them. On the other hand, there are some studies also showing some negative or drawbacks of the integrating MOOCs, or the things that we have to care for actually while we are integrating MOOCs into formal courses. The first one is engagement. We all know that people, when they feel they don't have to, some learners don't engage. So when you are integrating those MOOCs into your courses, we have to be sure that our learners in our formal courses will at the same time show interest and will engage in the content and in the discussions. Another issue is on-demand support. Sometimes in MOOCs, people do not get enough support they need, or they get the feedback or the support later than they really need it. So as the studies show that we have to be careful that they should get on-demand support, on-time support when they need it. Another problem is aligning all those courses with the program or outcomes or the course outcomes. It's a big issue actually, and I will come to that part, that we aligning the courses and the learning objective is a very important point. We have to be careful while we are integrating those MOOCs. Here are 3 examples how we can integrate MOOCs. These are from actual experiments in Turkey. We have some colleagues who, let's say this is a course, this is the first type, and in this course there are, let's say, 6 modules. And in this specific case, the instructor asks students to take 2 courses from somewhere else, as MOOCs, And in order to meet the learning objectives related to, of course, the course learning objectives. So just one part of the course is completely can be taken as a MOOC. In the second example, again, we have the course and we have some modules, but in each module, there are some pieces where some parts where it can be replaced by some MOOCs, short-term MOOCs or short, like 3 weeks long or 2 weeks long MOOCs can replace some of the instructional process in each module. And the third example, which is actually the most frequently accepted one, unfortunately, I must say, some instructors conducted their courses as it is, and also ask students to join a MOOC or couple MOOCs to get some extra credits for that course. So these are the 3 examples, most frequently used example of how we can integrate MOOCs into our courses. But while we are integrating all those courses, our experiments show that first, we should not let students choose whatever MOOCs they want to take. We have to prepare a list of MOOCs from different platforms. We have to check for their time, starting and end times. And we should ask students to choose among these alternatives. We should not give just a specific couple courses, MOOCs. We should provide some alternatives at the same time to be able to meet the needs of the learners. But the numbers shouldn't be too long. Just a short list of courses we have to identify and ask our students to take those courses as a part of our course. But while we are choosing those MOOCs, we have to think of our learning objectives in the course. Those MOOCs should address directly the learning objectives or the competencies we want our students to acquire during these courses. And also, another important point, unfortunately, this is sometimes missed by some instructors, sharing clear expectations and instructions with the students. Students should know why they are taking these MOOCs and what we are expecting from them, and what, at the end, what they should do to be able to meet this requirement. For example, we should ask proof of achievement. This can be a certificate or any letter showing that they completed the course. However, I personally never ask students to take a MOOC that requires some payment. I tell them just audit the course or complete the course if it's possible to complete freely without paying anything. Try to use those. And there are a lot of alternatives, so you can choose that kind of courses. In terms of proof of achievement, almost all courses sending at least an email showing that the student completed the MOOC. So you can ask as a proof that emails. However, that will not be really a proof. What we are recommending is you should follow up what they are learning in those MOOCs regularly. For example, every 2 weeks, I ask my students what they learned in that part of the MOOC during the last 2 weeks, and share their experiences with the whole class. That kind of follow follow-up activities really help learners to engage with the MOOC activities, and also show that you are really giving importance to this part of the course. I'm in the taking MOOCs. In terms of programs, learning programs, integrating MOOCs into learning programs, here are three major models, I must say. As you see at the first one, this is sort of a, the MicroMaster kind of a approach. First year, you ask students to complete a list of MOOCs and maybe a specialization or a special certificate, complete that part. And then they offer several major courses, face-to-face or online, usually nowadays online, less than regular courses. So instead of some regular courses, you are asking students to take some MOOCs before coming to the regular regular courses. This is the first part, and MIT, for example, has this MicroMaster, and they use this sort of an approach or model. And in Turkey, we have some good examples about it. And also in another model, while you are taking regular courses, you are asked to complete some short MOOCs as a part of the program, either first year, second year, or whatever you want. It's up to you, up to the program. And the third one is, again, MOOCs are some extra credits, not just the regular part of the course, but it's a requirement for student. It is a plus for student. And again, in terms of the MOOCs, integrating MOOCs into learning programs, we still have to follow those. We have to be careful about these same points, providing alternative MOOCs, aligning all those MOOCs with the program outcomes, clear expectations and instructions, proof of achievement, and most importantly, follow-ups. We have to follow up if they are completing those MOOCs. That's very important. And at this point, I would like to sort of introduce a project that we are doing with 5 different institutions from 5 different countries. It's called MODIT project, and it's completely focusing on using MOOCs or MOOC-based pedagogies into formal programs and courses. In this project, we have 3 major outcomes. We have already developed a self-assessment tool, and we trained designers. We did everything online. Now we are designing an online training program, actually a MOOC. And then at the last phase, we will train some university teachers or educators to implement or redesign their courses. In the self-assessment tool, we developed a self-assessment tool. We did a lot of desk study, and then in each country, we did focus group studies. Then we consolidate those, and now we have already finished piloting the tool. We are finalizing. This tool will help us, or actually help the individuals, educators, to identify their needs. In this tool, we identified 27 pedagogical and technological competencies that educators should need to be able to design a MOOC or implement MOOC-based pedagogies into their courses or programs. And we classify them into 5 areas: pedagogical competencies for designing student-centered learning, MOOC-specific competencies, technology-related competencies, competencies related to theoretical foundation of MOOCs, and competencies about MOOC integration. And we used Bloom's taxonomy. So in this tool, we are asking students For example, about online communication, we provide them 6 different alternatives based on this Bloom's taxonomy and choose in which level they feel they are in, or which level competency they possess. And at the end, the tool provides them a feedback about their needs. And based on this one, currently based on this assessment tool, we designed an online training program. Actually, it's a Moocs. It's a MOOC. Sorry, not Moocs. It's just one MOOC. It has 5 modules aligned with those 5 competency areas. And activities, we have some activities in each module, and all those modules are, all those activities are related to the competencies that we identified. So the MOOC is in an adaptive, has an adaptive organization, so that based on the self-assessment results, students are directed to the specific part of the MOOC. And so far, we are in the second phase. What we have learned is having a consensus on competencies that the instructors should have is a big problem. Although we know there is a very well accepted framework for digital competencies of education, DigiComp Edu, but still it was difficult to create a consensus about the definitions of the competencies. For example, here's a question for you. How do you define student-centric learning? We have all different backgrounds, and we all define it from a different perspective. Most probably, by the time those definitions of these concepts will come together, we will establish a common sense. But still, it is difficult for everybody with a different background to come a conclusion, come a common definition, especially during the beginning. So we spent a lot of time on it. And then now we are really happy to see that this modular structure based on the competencies, the modules and the activities addressing directly the competencies works really fine. We are very happy to see that it's gonna work. We are not sure yet, we haven't completed yet, but these are the basic lessons we learned so far. And this is basically my presentation. If you have any questions, I would like to answer. I hope I used the time well.
Yes, you did, Hakan. Thanks very much. Very interesting. Not only using Moocs to fill in the gaps of the need for more online programs to fill those gaps, but also to use them to educate the educators in using online education well, and the use of Moocs itself. So please, if there are any questions for Hakan, just opening the chat here. No immediate questions. We can also have some questions at the end. Then I would like to continue with the program, and then we go to Henry Anala from Tampere University of Applied Sciences on how to design online course, staff training and designing online learning. Henry, the floor is yours.
Thank you, George, and good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Henry Annala, as George already said. Nice to see all of you here today. I'm just going to share my screen and then we can get started. I think you can now see this. I'm here today to talk about, to give you a practical example of how you can train teachers to train better online courses. And this is a staff training unit that we've been running for several years, already started before the pandemic. And I'm just going to go through very quickly how we have set that up, and how the pandemic has changed it, and what kind of needs have arisen because of that. So that's basically what I'm going to go through today. First, a couple of things about myself. So I'm a language teacher by heart. That's the first thing that I do. I also deal a lot with pedagogy on how to teach effectively so that the students learn, both analog, digital pedagogy. And then I also work a lot with international affairs. So that's basically my professional expertise, and feel free to add me in LinkedIn if you're there as well. All right, so how to design an online course in a nutshell. So basically it is an online course that has been designed to help teachers to transform their existing classroom-based teaching into online courses, or blended courses for that matter. Or then if they have a completely new course idea, help them to build a course that works pedagogically. And the whole thing is part of the Digimentor network services that we have at Tampere University of Applied Sciences. That was set up, I think, some 7-8 years ago. Digimentors are essentially teachers who are interested or have expertise in online teaching or digital tools, and their task is to help other teachers with these kind of questions. And the idea is to sort of like provide pedagogical support, because of course we have IT help desk and all that kind of services that all the universities have, but it's sort of like an in-between service, in between the teachers and the IT, sort of like. And we developed this at our university, and then we sort of like got together with the other university in Tampere, and it formed the university community, and then started giving this service to the whole university community, and also extended it to a paid course worldwide. So it's been used in that kind of a framework as well. And what we focus on in this course is mainly the theoretical framework, so online pedagogy, learning design theories, different tools that you can use in teaching, and collaborative working methods. We're really focusing on collaboration and the effects of having students interact with each other. And it's not a course that the students can take, or the teacher students in this case, they're teachers, that can take the course by themselves, because we have facilitators. It's a heavily facilitated course. So we are basically scaffolding the whole course design process throughout. And we've been doing this about 5 years. And at the end, I'm gonna share with you some things that we've learned along the way. So this is the original version that we had before the pandemic. So we had this sort of like a 10-week course that we offered to teachers. And you can see now the different parts here in these like small pictures. It had weekly tasks, and the idea was that the teachers worked around 8 to 10 hours every week. So the idea was that they could be still doing this course alongside working. And as I said at the beginning, they had their own course ideas. They actually built their own courses during this course. We kind of like laid out the framework for them, gave them some theoretical information, and then supported the actual course building process. And the participants worked in small groups that offered then peer support and feedback at different stages. And all of these groups also had a facilitator that was specifically named for that group. And of course, this being an online course, we also try to model like what a good online course could look like by having this course. So it's sort of like served as a really hands-on model for the teachers as well, giving ideas. We purposefully included a lot of different tools that we thought that, hey, this might be useful for somebody, so let's take this tool here. In a regular course, we probably wouldn't have that many different tools, but now it was the idea to show, what kind of things you can do with the students. And the first three topics here on the left-hand side, introduction, studying online, online pedagogy, collaboration and tools, they sort of like gave some theoretical perspectives, different models on how to start the course building framework, what kind of aspects should be taken into account when designing online learning. And then the last four, vision and storyboard, course demo, feedback and conclusion, were more about actually building the course. And we used two different learning management systems. We had Moodle, where the whole course took place. And then we also had a WordPress blog where the students returned their assignments most often. And then they also commented on each other's assignments. So this is how it looked like before the pandemic. And I think that I'm just going to quickly run through the next slides because these are about the different aspects of the course. I don't think that we have enough time to go into them, but the course also had badges to show how they could be utilized. And these slides are, more about what kind of things were included in each of these parts. But I think that I'm just gonna quickly skip them. You can return to them when you get the slides afterwards. But then we get to 2020. So as we all know, the pandemic started in the early 2020, and then we quite quickly got a lot of people saying that, hey, we would really need you to launch this course again, because at that time we weren't actually planning on running it. And then they said that, okay, next autumn, there will be a lot of degree programs who have international students and they can't come to Finland. So the teachers need to transform all their courses online, and they've never done that before, so they don't know where to start. So they really need to have some kind of a crash course on how to transform their teaching online. So what we did in 2020, we decided that we organized this sort of like a kickoff webinar that offers like some kind of starting point for everybody who are starting their course building process. And a lot of the teachers were working through the whole summer to get their courses ready for the autumn. So the idea was this, that we offer the kickoff webinar in June 2020, and then they can get started. And then before the courses start in the autumn, we have this sort of like a 5-week, really intensive course, sort of like a minimized version of the original version. So in this kickoff webinar, we introduced different learning design theories, digital literacies, scaffolding online learning, also introduced some quality criteria for online learning so that they can use them to make sure that their online course designs are of high quality, that they have taken into account different things from different perspectives. We had some breakout rooms then, some sort of like voluntary homework for those who were planning to take the course in the autumn. And then in the autumn, we had this 5-week online course, which started off with orientation and small groups again, a bit of online pedagogy, and then we dived straight to actually building the courses through storyboarding, creating these wireframes for courses, and then actual course demos, getting feedback from other people and from facilitators. So that was what we did in 2020. But then, of course, as we all know, the situation didn't get any better. No, we're not going to go there yet. So 2020 still, one of the big differences that we had comparing to the original version was that we replaced the WordPress blog with Microsoft Teams, and we used that as the other learning management system in the course. And actually, we found out that it was a really good solution. We saw that participant engagement was really increased. So people were more active in commenting and posting because it was really easy. I mean, we all know, I think that most of us have used Microsoft Teams, so we know that it's a really handy tool. You can use it on your mobile phone. You can use different channels for different tasks. So it's quite handy, and by default it boosts communication. So that was something that we found really useful. Okay, then moving on to 2021. So we were faced with the situation that the pandemic wasn't going anywhere. So we still had a lot of teachers who were really needing this kind of like approach that, okay, how can I create better online courses? I mean, most of our teachers, I think probably everybody, had some experience of online teaching now because of the pandemic, but then they were struggling with certain issues and they had a lot of questions. So they definitely needed some kind of instruction on how to make it better. So we decided to have this webinar plus mentoring workshop approach for 2021. So we came up with this plan to have 4 different webinars this spring. And then in between the webinars, we had these mentoring workshops. And the idea was that the webinars were more like that, okay, we are going through different concepts, we are covering different ideas, and then of course, keeping it as interactive as possible. A lot of people are attending them, so sometimes conversations are kind of hard to have, but we usually have a couple of breakout room discussions at least to make sure that people can also voice their opinions. But then these mentoring workshops are like spaces for people just to pop in and they can come with their questions or comments or ideas, and then we can talk about them together. So basically just a time frame to pop in, to say hi, to talk about whatever they have in their minds, and these have been really good discussions. And now in 2021, there's also this framework called Teaching and Learning Center. I think that some of the European universities have been setting up these teaching and learning centers, which are essentially like pedagogical service networks or units that help teachers in pedagogy related matters. So now we also have one at our university, and this How to Design an Online Course has been a part of their service set. Okay. So then the interesting bit. So what we have learned. So I'd say that we've learned a lot throughout the 5 or 6 years that we've been running these. And of course, as we all know, there's an increasing need for this kind of training. And then there was the need already before the pandemic, but now it has like jumped up the roof, basically. As for our course, we've been running it like every year. Some years we've been running it twice. You can see the graph here. The completion rate has been going from 31 to 91 in the course of 4 years. So I'd say that we've definitely learned something along the way. And, talking about the completion rate here only, we found that the key thing to get this better was definitely focusing on the first few weeks. We've been trying to really establish a really active facilitator presence in the first 2 weeks, communicating to the students actively, making sure that they get this idea that they're not alone. There are other people there working with them, and also trying to create this sense of community, like bringing in people's faces and voices and making them feel that they're a part of a group, working together towards a common goal. So that's what we've done to make this, get better. So that would be something to focus on if you want to increase the completion rate, I'd say. And then a few key ideas on designing online courses. First of all, we really think that if you want to train teachers how to develop online courses, the training course should definitely be an online course as well, for 2 reasons. Because they get the student experience when they participate in that kind of course. They can see how online learning looks like from the student's viewpoint, and that's actually a valuable experience. I've noticed that a lot of people don't have that. A lot of the teachers have never participated in online courses. They've run online courses, but never been a student in one. And many have said that it was eye-opening for them. And then number 2, of course, it can give them a practical example of, hey, a course could look like this. You can set up tasks like this. So modeling, giving an example. And then collaboration. I can't really stress collaboration enough. I think it's really fundamental in terms of learning, successful online learning. But it requires a lot of planning because, you know, people, and in our case, the teachers who participate in the course, they have different backgrounds, they have different interests, they have different schedules. So to be able to successfully build collaboration in a course, it requires a lot of thinking and also a lot of flexibility, which takes us to the next bullet point. So teachers are busy, as we all know. It's really difficult for them to commit to a training course that has a lot of deadlines. And that was evident from our first implementations, where we had like 31% completion rate. A lot of teachers were saying that they're too busy, they can't take the course, so they're dropping out. So you really need to think about different mechanisms to create flexibility in the course as well. Of course, deadlines are important. You need to have deadlines in order to keep people doing stuff, but then there should be also flexibility. And incentive is something that we also found really interesting. Most people taking our course has this like internal motivation that they want to know how to create good online courses. They want to develop their professional skill set. But then again, there have also been teachers who are saying that, you know, I don't get paid for attending your course, so, you know, why should I do anything? So some teachers really would benefit if they had this more like top-down incentive that, okay, you know, you have 10 hours allocated for doing this course on a weekly basis. So taking this management approach might be good for some teachers. And then, of course, relevance. So if you want to train people to develop online courses, it needs to be relevant for their purposes. They need to find that, you know, this is something that helps me in my day-to-day work, that they benefit from the course. And that's what we've been trying to do here as well. And also, the final thing that I've listed here, quality. It is really important to make sure that you offer you know, a lot of viewpoints to online learning, because online learning can be looked at from so many different viewpoints. And the good thing about, you know, having all those viewpoints is that when you consider online learning from several different angles, it almost automatically improves the quality as well. Because if you think about that, okay, do I have versatile tasks? Can they do it? Can they do the tasks like synchronously, asynchronously? What kind of task descriptions do I have? What kind of scaffolding process have I built in my course? How do I assess the tasks? What kind of live meetings have I planned? You know, all these kind of different viewpoints. I think that by looking at each one of them, you can definitely improve the course, and that's a really crucial thing. All right, I think that this brings us to the end of my presentation, and I think that there are some comments in the chat. I saw chat blinking there.
Yes,
Yeah,
thanks, thanks, Henry. Yeah, we're going to look at the chat, and indeed, what is I think in summary of your presentation, it's clear that the team has taken it up as a shared challenge, shared responsibility, and there with the coordinated actions that were taking place at your institution, there was really a good answer to the challenges by this approach. And what I see in the chat is, I think you most of that part you answered in your final part of your presentation about what motivated them. Maybe you want to summarize that in the answer to the question about how participants were motivated.
Yeah, well, I think that before pandemic, I think that the people taking the course were mostly just interested in learning more about online teaching and turning their courses into blended or online courses. So it was more like this personal interest. And of course, the policy of our university has been like for a long time already that these kind of experiments were strongly encouraged, that people were encouraged that, okay, if you want to try online teaching, then that's definitely a nice thing, so go for it. But it wasn't really like mandated that, okay, you need to turn this course into an online course now. So it was more up to the teachers themselves. And in Finland, we teachers really have a great deal of autonomy, so they can decide pretty much if they have their course online or face-to-face, and it depends, of course, on the student population as well. If your students are working full-time, it might make sense to have these online courses, but if they're like full-time students, then of course face-to-face might be a better option in some cases. So they were more like internally motivated, but then then after the pandemic, I think it was the situation that mostly motivated them, that they kind of had to know how to do it now. They didn't have a choice anymore, because they just needed to change everything into online mode.
Do you have an idea of the percentage of teachers across the university who completed the course?
That's actually quite low still. I think we've had like, because of the nature of our course, we didn't want to make it like a Mooc course, because we really wanted to bring in this strong facilitation there. So we couldn't take more than, let's say, 30 students at a time. So in total, I think we've run this with like 200 students maybe, and I think that our university has over 1,000 teachers, I think. But then also the university community, I think we have like maybe 4,000 or 5,000 teachers actually. So the percentage is not that great, not yet.
And any reflection or feedback by students on taking the new approach?
By new approach to
by student the effect of your course and going into online education. Was there feedback measured by students on the online education?
Well, yeah, that's actually something that we should probably take a more systematic approach to them. I mean, we've got a lot of feedback from our previous for the teachers who've taken our course in the past, that now they've run different online courses and it has gone well and this and that, but we haven't done any systematical like that. Okay, let's get some feedback from the people who have taken our course. But I'd say that almost everyone has said that it has been really helpful, and they're still using some of the things that they learned during the course. I think the single most important thing is that you kind of like, you have a framework to start with, that you sort of like have some kind of a way to put together the rough course idea, like storyboarding, for example, that you have this one technique that you can use to make it clear to yourself that, okay, this is how my course is going to look like, and these are the elements that I'm going to put in.
Yeah, and let's see if teachers are now keep on using it even if the pandemic is over, and if they see this really as an enrichment of their ways of teaching by using online modes of teaching as well. That's that we will see in the next stage. You don't have information on that? No,
not yet. No. But I'd be really interested in hearing about like the people here that, if your universities are running similar kind of training courses, like how have you done them? What kind of courses you have in place? Be really curious to hear about that.
Anyone in the audience give a reflection on their institutional approach?
Because I'm sure that most universities have some kind of trainings, and our university also, they've had like these short-term trainings, like brief sessions on like very specific topics. That's something that we've had like a long time. But before we set up this course, I don't think that there was any like actual like a big entity that helped teachers to train to develop online learning units.
Yeah. Henriette, did you want to take the floor?
Sorry, yes, I was coughing, but yes, I have in our experience. So I'm from Uni Distance, Fernuni in Switzerland, and we systematically, so we're fully online. So when new professors or assistants come to us, we train everyone right at the beginning individually. So on the tools and on the general philosophy, and then we developed the course together. And what we added when we moved fully online, so we used to have a mixed model where students did come in 5 times per semester in person, and so we had to move fully online like everyone else. And then we added, as you did, Henry, these webinars to help them do more synchronous teaching. So we've now got a mix of both, and I think it would be nice to move to a similar model to the one you were suggesting, with something more holistic about the whole course, including all the different aspects. But thank you very much for your presentation. It's interesting to hear.
Yeah. Thanks, Henrietta. Really, really interesting approach that you have as well. I see also Lars Ulin writing in the chat about the course that they're running. And actually, I know your course. I think that my colleague who I'm running this course with actually took part in your course as well a year ago, this open network learning. So we kind of like know what you're doing and really like that. So it's a great course. So congratulations on setting that up. One thing that you had in your course, if I remember right, you use these tweet chats, and that's something that we've also tried, toyed around with the idea that maybe we can try that in our course as well. But
I mean, what we really try in our course is from the beginning was trying to experiment and implement problem-based learning, collaborative learning for teachers in an online environment, and also having it as an open course. So I mean, it has really grown. I think we are today 14 different institutions, half from Sweden, but it's also Switzerland, Germany, South Africa, Singapore, and we have a lot of open learners that come from all around the world, and it's running at the moment now. So we're in the middle of the course for this spring. So it's been working fine and growing. So I just wrote that, Henry, that it would be really nice to. I haven't heard about your initiative there and what you've been doing for such a long time. It would be really nice to share experiences on this.
yeah, definitely, we should do that.
Because we have Finland as well. I mean, Alto, Arcada, Hanken, Jyväskylä, and so on, also on the course.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, thanks. Henry, there's another question here posed in the chat on the subject of the course design in your program. Did you rather present typical teaching learning scenarios in the context of higher education to teachers, or rather didactic models and recommendations?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that the answer would be both. So a lot of times these also intertwine, as you know, they overlap. That if you think about that, okay, this is how we can do like synchronous learning, for example, with these kind of tools, then we get to kind of like issues of like motivation as well, and how collaboration boosts learning and these kind of things. So we try to implement both pedagogy, didactical questions, guidelines, recommendations, and then also these more like models and different kind of theories and that. So the answer would be both. And the last question, which version helped the teachers more? Well, I'd say it depends. Some teachers, they need a lot of this like really practical tips that, okay, this is a good tool. You can use this and you can do stuff like this with this tool. But then other teachers benefit more from sort of like having a deeper look at, okay, how do I design my learning? What do I want my students to learn at the end? And this more like a pedagogical approach. And that's why we wanted to have both in this course. So I think they support each other as well.
Thanks. Any further questions?
May I ask a question, George?
Sure. Yes, sure.
Well, training teachers is easy, and there are a lot of courses that help instructors to train about how to design courses or how to design online learning. But the most difficult part from our experience is supporting them. do you have any mechanism, or what kind of things you do to support professors or teachers while they are designing or running their courses? And have you identified anything really effective? Thank you.
So if I can answer this, I think that one of the things here that we've done is this DigiMentor network that I mentioned at the beginning. This is something that we've found really effective in supporting teachers in their online courses and the digital things that they use in their teaching profession. So kind of like having someone who knows about teaching, who has pedagogical training, but who is also knowledgeable about online tools and online pedagogy and stuff like that. So kind of like in between the IT and the teachers, as I said at the beginning. So I think that's definitely an approach that is useful. And I know that a lot of universities in Finland have approached this methodology in a couple of past years, so that there's maybe one DigiMentor per school or per faculty or a couple, that they are designated people that everybody knows, that they also know that, okay, I can contact this person. And oftentimes they are people that they already know because they are from their own work community. So the threshold of contacting them is really low, that they know the people and they know that they also get some hours for it. So they're not bothering them for just in vain.
Thanks.
So that's one.
Thanks so much. I'm afraid the time is up for this afternoon. I want to thank you both, Hakan and Henry, for your contributions today. They're really valuable and really valued by the listeners, I see. We as ED2 keep on working on supporting activities and sharing of expertise in relation to the COVID crisis and online education in general. Actually, tomorrow we will start with a kickoff meeting of our Digital Pro project on synchronous, hybrid, blended and online education for COVID. And we will keep you informed on this Digital Pro project. And further, I would like to announce to you that we have in the second week of June, we have our next webinar week, which will be completely dedicated to diversity and inclusion in online education. And diversity and inclusion is currently the work of a task force within ED2, where we have 9 subgroups on diversity and inclusion. So there's a very hardworking group of about 17 universities contributing to that. And we are glad to share first results in the second week of June, and we will certainly inform you about that. So thanks again, Hakan and Henry, and also for the participants today and this week. And we hope to see you again next time in our next webinar week. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.